We're never going to have a serious opening ever. We
Nope.
actually should refuse to do that ever.
I refuse.
Like,
I refuse on principle to be serious because
that's right.
if you're not having a good time, then that's too bad.
You're in the wrong place.
That's right.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the
Where's
Peoples.
everybody? I had a few people message me and say they're going to watch.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Today's fun too because it's timely, it's relevant, it's a topic that's really close to courses. It's really in the course world, but people don't like to act like it is. But and there's a big difference between it, a course and a workshop and a webinar. Like they're not the same things, but
Right.
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to talk about that today. And I just got told by LinkedIn that our live is happening right now.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I don't know if you heard that.
They didn't tell me anything rude.
They're like, hey, you're on. Yeah, no, thanks. How are you doing today? Have you had a good week?
I have had a good week. Funny, Shadow, the continuing dog story. Shadow's getting his ACL repaired. Actually, I think the vet just called and his ACL has been repaired. Breaking news. Okay. But I might have to have back surgery because when I lifted him into the car to go get his ACL repaired, no, I'm not having back surgery, but I tweaked my back a little bit. I was like, okay, wait a minute. What's happening right now?
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah, the big dogs come with their complications. So like my mom just got a little dog for the first time and she's like, this is so different. I'm like, yeah, it is way easier to manage them when it comes to things like this. But God help me if Ella ever gets to the point where she can't walk for herself because she's 90 pounds and I can't just lug a 90-pound pit bull around. It's like, it's a lot of work.
Yes. Well, also at the vet this morning. So at our vet, they brought in a specialist to do this repair. And there was a woman on the couch with I think the dog was maybe a Chihuahua. Maybe he weighed 3 pounds. And when they came in to give me my paperwork and sign my life away, they were talking to her and her Chihuahua was also getting his ACL repaired. I mean, the dog is like,
it's like a rubber band, a little tiny little rubber band.
It was like a snack. Like Shadow's head is bigger than the other dog. So, but there were 2 repairs happening today. Just so interesting, right? Just because I had no idea. I have not had any sports injuries repaired by a surgeon. Knock on wood. That will not happen for me. But just interesting. All the interesting.
You want to hear something crazy? That ACL cost just as much to fix on that Chihuahua as it did on Shadow.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And when you look at Shadow, you're like, okay, appreciable sized dog. I'm good. We're going to get this thing fixed. And I can see why, and then you look at a Chihuahua and you go, wait, it's going to cost the same amount to fix the ACL over there. That's a little thing.
That is all right. Well,
that's a tiny dog.
That's a tiny dog. Okay. Very fun.
It still deserves its ACL. Yeah. So that's been a point of, I was telling you before, I was telling you last week, we had to have both Ella's ACLs done when she was 2 years old. And I mean, oh my gosh, what a process that is, one at a time, the whole deal. So yeah, I feel you.
Yes.
Have you been reading this week?
I've been reading this week. Yes.
It was a book, had a cover.
3
syllables.
3 syllables sounds like yes.
Well, you've been face down in just in your own defense, you've been working your own book project this week too. So.
In my own defense, yes. In my own defense, I have 2 book projects that are coming soon. I have several book projects I'm working on, but those authors, their books are longer term. But we have
Right.
Beth Walker's book about helping parents save a whole bunch of money on sending their kids to college. So I've been working on that. And then you monetize your book with a course. No, you you must monetize your book comes out on the 25th, and you must market your book was just released in German
Oh,
on Monday.
I didn't know
And
that.
I just got an email from the publisher last night, and she wants to publish You Must Monetize Your Book in German.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So that was really cool. It was funny because I'm not up that late, right? So I had done a Zoom call with someone at 4:00, and he was in the UK. And I was like, he's from the UK. And I said, are you actually in the UK? And he said, yes, I'm in the UK right now. And he said, and it's late for me. I'm an early riser. So we had been connected by a mutual friend. And thank you, lovely assistant. So I was waiting.
You were stalling. I had no idea.
I had sent the SOS message for just a little book by one LC Marino, who also might be known as Lucas Marino. Congratulations on your book. That's why I was like, yes.
I had no idea you were stalling. Byron's probably downstairs going,
yes, so now I have 2 of them. Does this come in hardcover?
No.
Okay, so I have these 2. I have to say, we are going to just totally get off the topic of Honore's books right now because these books look so good.
Don't they?
So good.
She did a phenomenal
but this is
job.
you too. I mean, this is book stand. This is airport bookstore worthy. This is face out on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. Fantastical. I mean,
thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
So yes, I got a book, but I've just had all the things happen this week.
Yeah.
All the things happened this week, and
it's a lot.
I was at a luncheon yesterday, a business luncheon, and the host asked the question, do you have any tips on productivity? And then he's like, Honore, I'm looking at you. And I said, I do have tips for productivity. And one of them is no is a complete sentence. And the other one I said was, I have JOMO, which is the joy of missing out.
Oh, I've never heard of that. That's
some people I made it up. I do not have FOMO. I have JOMO.
I'm going to make that into a t-shirt and give one to Tammy.
Send it to me. Thank you. Yes. So I went against everything and I went to a dinner. The reservation for the dinner, Lucas, I give you 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. What time did we start eating dinner?
Well, okay. So that's not what time was the reservation for.
Yeah. What time was the reservation for?
Oh, okay. Reservation 7:00.
7:30.
I was close.
But you're talking to me.
I know. I also have the advantage of having.
I'm the table that's leaving, so the 7:30 reservation can sit down. Okay, that's my normal. That's my normal time. But we were invited to dinner, and we had the best time. And then, of course, I was like, okay, an hour for dinner, maybe an hour and a half. In the car by 9:00. Oh no. So I actually talked to a friend of mine. I had called on the way home. And she called back and she's like, what's wrong? Why are you up? 911. This is 911. What is your emergency? We're returning your call. What's happening?
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's fun.
Yes. So I went against everything. And so on the night before the surgery, I'm up way past my bedtime. So I am on all the coffee and all the things. So no, there was no reading last night because I didn't, get in the bed at 8:00, curl up with a book on the couch at 6:30. that did not happen. But also, it was fun to come out of my regimented rule following, nonsense and have a good time, stay up until my New Year's Eve equivalent normally. And there's Jen Valentino.
Happy birthday, Jen.
Happy birthday, Jen.
I was hoping you'd show up today so I could yell at you, happy birthday.
Yeah, because she's not coming to the other thing.
That's okay.
I know.
I say it like it's my thing.
Yeah.
You're excused, okay. Jen. It's good.
That's okay. You have a birthday excuse note. Hopefully you have received something. You haven't gotten a notification, so I'm starting to get a little nervous about that, but I'll check on it.
There you go.
Yeah. So are 25. You reading?
Yeah, actually I just finished Suffer the Darkness from Yolanda Sefsos, who is an author from Australia. And very imaginative story about all kinds of wild stuff. It was really good though. It's I didn't know what to expect reading it. So once I got into it, I was like, oh, what is this? And I just started. I'm really excited about this in case you couldn't tell.
I can. And this is me backing away from the darkness.
It's like, well, I've been wanting to read Yolanda's work for a while because she was very supportive of me when I put out Bury the Child, and I picked up her book, and then I was like, I can't wait to read this. But it was like, the TBR was like knocking me over. I had to catch up.
Yeah.
So I started reading The Redemption of Morgan Bright, and I want to make sure I don't get, I don't butcher Chris's last name here. But Redemption of Morgan Bright from Chris Panettiere, and interesting, very interesting. I just started last night. So those two are my current fiction reads. And then I just got this advanced reader copy of this book, some monetized book, something from this lady, Honore Corder. So that's my
reading it?
No, it's actually, I just finished my other read last night. So today is my open the new books day.
Oh, okay.
I try to treat myself on Thursdays with new reads.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I try to treat myself every day with new reads.
I would love to. I would love to. I teach at the university tonight, and so kind of like Thursday's kind of like my reset day.
That's a long day. Got to spend reading time.
Yeah.
Well, I will be on the porch.
I can't wait for you to read that book. I think you're going to be surprised by what it isn't and what it is.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I haven't ever read horror. The only horror I've ever been in contact with was watching Cujo on television when I was a kid. And I just kind of went, I'm good. Yeah. So we'll see. You're introducing me to an entirely new genre. And I didn't think I liked historical fiction until I read The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan, who I met. I
love historical fiction
to meet, and she did and her writing is also just incredibly beautiful. That's all we can say about it. I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful. So anyway, all the books all the time make me happy. Yep. So I'll be on the porch. I'll be on the porch maybe with Shadow, who will be drunk.
Yeah, he'll be all drugged up and recovering.
His meniscus too.
Yeah.
So we're we're all in on the fixation, and he's going to be a new dog here pretty soon. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking about workshops. Yeah, workshops. Yeah. Workshops are like the best of all the different worlds kind of put together. And I felt like it was important as like a course guide to talk about workshops because especially with the creative entrepreneurs, you hear so much about like build your funnel with a webinar, and then the webinar leads to selling the course, and the course then leads to one-on-one services or some other high ticket item or whatever.
Maybe.
And I think the expectation when people hear webinar and the expectation when people hear workshop sometimes get confused.
Yeah.
Like they can get people mistaken one for the other. And a course brings a certain amount of value to somebody, but it serves a
Mhm.
very specific purpose. Like every product does. A nonfiction book serves a different purpose than
Yep.
a fiction book does.
Yep.
And courses serve different functions and intentions than workshops do. And the reason I like workshops is they bring the learning and the doing together. So it's kind of like this bridge between just enough coursework to get started and get rolling, and having someone there alongside you to help guide you through some doing. And you can leave a workshop. This is like the big thing to take away is you can leave the workshop learning what you need to do to take action, then taking action in the workshop and leaving with a product. And that's like a really quick way to
Mhm.
accelerate your production or jumpstart your production if you're having problems getting started. So if you were my example is always in course creation because that's what we do at Merino Training. So if
Yep.
someone wants to create a course, oftentimes the thing that slows them down is that they just don't know where to start. And then when they come to work with us as clients, I'm like, hey, we need to get your course foundation established. And they're like, how do we do that? And you can do that by outsourcing that work to somebody who you collaborate with, like me, or you could do it in an environment where you buy a course and you learn what the course foundation is, and then you get to work on your own. Or you can kind of put both those worlds together and in 2 or 3 hours knock out a course foundation specifically in a workshop.
Right.
So
Very
workshops
cool.
are, yeah, really powerful, really good stuff, and great opportunity for people that may not have the desire or money to engage in a high dollar service contract with somebody or a higher dollar service contract, but they
Yeah.
also know that having an on-demand course isn't the right thing for them.
So you're wanting to put it together a workshop.
Mhm.
What's the first thing you think about when you're putting together a workshop?
Uh,
What's my first thing?
yeah, so this one's fun because by the way, none of these questions Honore is going to ask me have been pre-prescribed. This
No,
is
I'm
all like,
we're just I'm
love it.
operating out of curiosity because I have done a
Yeah.
lot of webinars
Right.
and I have done several courses and I don't think I've done any workshops.
Oh, they're so much fun.
So now I'm like, okay, all right, Lucas. So if I'm
so,
doing a workshop,
uh,
what am I
so,
what I want to put together a workshop.
mhm.
I'm charging for the workshop.
Yep.
All right. So what do I start with? The chicken or the egg? Do I start with the price of the workshop or do I start with the promise of the workshop? I'm just like
Yeah.
I would say what I know what I would say just coming from logically
Mhm.
putting together other things before. But what's the first thing I think about when I'm doing a workshop?
Yeah. The very first thing I always tell people to consider when doing a workshop is your audience better than anyone else. You know who your clients are, you know who your product purchases are, you know who's buying your books, you know who's buying your courses, you know who's buying your services.
But do you? I mean, like, isn't that your first thing you determine then is like, who are you
Well,
doing the workshop for?
that's the next part. So
Okay.
if you know who those people are that come to your business that you talk to,
Yep.
and you've obviously screened people for client work, or you've sold courses to people, or you've engaged with people in your webinars, you've interacted with people that interact with your business.
Yep.
So a workshop should very, 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 very carefully consider delivering on a promised outcome. A
Okay.
workshop should be like, we are going to work together to develop this thing for this type of person. So that person, that ideal attendee, ideal client, ideal learner, ideal workshop attendee, whatever you want to call them, that person comes in the door with a very specific need. And you're going to educate them and then help them develop a very specific outcome. And that could be like a course outline, or it could be like a book outline, or it could be
Okay.
whatever the
Okay.
outcome, the thing that you're going to
Got it.
build together, that has to
Mhm.
be a part of the baked in promise of the workshop. That is what
So,
you're there to create.
so you're not getting them ready to do something that they're actually doing something.
You're going to do both of those things. You're going to educate them before you work, and then you're going to work. So if I
Oh, I
know,
see.
like, yeah. So for example, let's just take something that everyone's familiar with, an outline, right? So if we need to create a course outline or a book outline, whichever kind of product, you know the process you go through as a service provider to develop
Yep.
outlines for your clients.
Yep.
And it's fairly repetitive process. It works every time. It's just the person's nuance, their topic, all those things have to be considered. But normally when you sit down with someone and you work with them one-on-one, you go through a series of questions or through your own process that helps them understand what answers to give you or how to work together to create this outline for their project. So whether that be a book or a course. So you know what you have to teach in order to get to that point in the project,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to,
Mm-hmm.
they have to understand the right way to think about an outline. They have to understand exactly what the outline should contain and what it should do and what it shouldn't contain and what it shouldn't do. And once you can give the people in the workshop a lesson on exactly how to approach the thing you're going to do together, you're going to educate them on that topic. You're not going to give them the history of books or the history of courses.
Right.
You're not going to tell them about all the things that are coming 6 months from now or the whole process for developing a course or developing a book. It's specifically geared toward, let's get your course outlined. So in our case, for like this weekend, we're going to do one for course foundation. I have a specific series of questions that I use with all my clients that help them develop their course foundation. We're going to identify who their ideal learner is. We're going to
Okay.
identify the problem they solve. We're going to
Okay.
identify their solution as a viable solution.
Got it.
We're going to very specifically outline what outcome they're going to create for their course attendees. And
Okay.
then we're going to talk about how that fits into their course outline, how they need to approach their course outline. That's the foundation of the course. It's a bit of business justification, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also a bit of product development. And so people underestimate that, like, you have to go through a very specific way of thinking about those things in order to
Right.
do that properly. And so I'm going to educate them on exactly what each of those elements are and how we think about them. And then we're going to work on that and develop that together. And then we'll do feedback on what they've come up with and make sure that everyone's using the right approach. They're thinking about it, they're firming up and solidifying their product so that when they leave the workshop, they've been educated on what that foundation is, how it's supposed to work, how to get
Right.
it. Oh, and then we did it together. And they walked away with their
I like
foundation
it.
identified.
I like it. So Jen has a comment. Cool. I want to
Mhm.
do a spring equinox manifesting workshop and writing workshop for turning pain into purpose. I love this.
Yes.
And so how long does a workshop? How long does a workshop last? And is it the it depends answer? Are you going to give me the lawyer answer, or is there a
Yeah.
standard for? Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think you would have to consider
Mhm.
how long people can
Yep.
focus on something before their sponge is full, right? Before they
Correct.
just there's a point of
Correct.
diminishing returns of time. So is
Yep.
there what do we consider with that?
Yeah, my general rule of thumb is that it's somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. And the reason I say somewhere between 2 and 4 hours is it depends on the complexity of the topic and how much time it takes to
Sure.
do the work. Now, it's not all about like how much time it takes to teach them. It's about how much time it takes to do the work, because even if they leave like with a fairly good understanding of what you have to do, they will be satisfied with that as long as they leave with a product. They need to leave with a product. So
Okay.
you have to consider, how long would it take if I taught them this in 30 minutes, these elements,
Right.
or even in
Can
an
they learn
hour,
that fast, or is it
right?
too complex?
Yep. So if we do a 45-minute lesson with 15 minutes for Q&A back and forth, and we give ourselves a little bit of, can we do the work in an hour after that? Can we do that? It's like you have to ask yourself, how long would it take for us to learn this and then do this? And if you can do it in under 4 hours, you've got a viable opportunity for a workshop. If you can't do it in under 4 hours, you need to ask if it's worth doing that much work in one session.
4 hours is so long because I think about our EBM meetings and I think about the live Q&As that I do. So if
Mhm.
you or if you're choosing a 3 or 4 hour stint, do you then add an intermission?
I add a 15-minute intermission for every hour.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So using the standards, but the general best practices for like course delivery,
Yeah.
we would learn for no more than like 45 minutes to an hour. Right. I try to do a 45-minute block of education, a 15-minute break, 10-minute break at the minimum.
Okay.
So 10 to 15-minute break, everyone come back. They've got their minds kind of cleared a little bit. If we have more
Sure.
education, then we do that. If we have work to do,
Uh,
then we do that. So you can stagger that too. You don't have to do all the education up front and then all the
yeah.
work. You can do education work, education work. So sometimes it's better to just take steps going, learn, act, learn,
Sure.
act, learn, act,
Sure.
right?
I'm more of a no breaks person. So
Well, that's where 2 hours is great because you can get away with a 2-hour workshop
yeah.
with no break
Yeah.
if when you're working, it's a fairly active work period.
Right. Because
So
the time flies and people don't feel
yeah.
like they need a break.
And you're
Yeah.
talking, it's not like they're just sitting there trying to listen to someone, which is
Sure.
where that's when the mind numbing starts to come in after 45
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. And so you're doing a workshop in a
Yeah,
couple of days on
right.
course foundations. And what will people leave with? What's the promise of the course or of
So,
the workshop?
yeah, so I have a standard product in my service that I provide all course creators. Sometimes they don't even know I'm using it. We're just going through a session together where I'm like, we need to build this foundation for your course. We need to identify who your ideal client is.
Hmm.
So we're going to do that. We need to identify what problem you're solving for them. We're going to do that. We need to identify what the outcomes are if they can solve their problem with your course. We're going to
Right.
do that. You're going to document all of that. Then I'm going to ask you, well, like who's like, are there applications to this thing that you're teaching? Like, where would these people apply this stuff? And we'll
Okay.
go through all of that. Like, how much urgency is there in these people learning and doing this thing that you're going to teach them? What's the reality versus the urgency? Like, some people are like really excited to learn something from you, but the reality is it might take them 6 months to do it. So we have to kind of hash all that out together. Then we
Okay.
talk about um then we talk about like, okay, now that we understand who your ideal client is, we understand their problem, we understand your solution, and we understand the outcome that they can achieve with your course. Let's
Right.
talk about how all this fits into creating an outline for your course. And then we go through that process,
Okay.
because in curriculum development, you don't want to give them too much and you definitely can't give them too little. So we have to kind of balance um, the justification and the course foundation with the outline, because the outline really becomes what you're going to deliver. So if you can
Right.
leave a workshop where you can go through all of this really detailed yet nuanced discussion and leave with that course foundation identified, documented, and then your course outline
Yep.
developed in accordance with that foundation, you're ready to start developing your course. Like, you can literally start creating your content right away after that.
So the workshop is really great. I can see doing one for maybe even like write your first nonfiction book
Sure. Mhm.
because it gets people out of analysis paralysis.
Exactly.
Do I like blue or red? Do I like light blue or dark blue? Do I want
You do not love red. If we're talking
oh,
about
but
cover design, it's like
right,
that kind
well,
of conversation happens. Yeah.
right, but I can see where people overthink themselves into inaction. So if you
Mhm.
go into the workshop and you say, okay, you're going to come out of this with your outline, which includes your chapter titles, which includes effective chapter titling. We're going to flush out the title and subtitle of the book based on, right? So I can see where
Sure.
then you go, okay, now you have your outline. You already know what to say
Right.
about each of these things that you've chosen. Now the next logical step is to set aside time to write,
That's it.
to not go back and say, well, should chapter 6 be chapter 5?
Yep.
Do I really want to write about kitten leg warmers or do I want to write about, raising llamas? We've
Right.
already made that decision. And
Yes.
now you have a direction. So it gets people out of analysis paralysis. It sounds like that's
Right.
the great purpose of a workshop.
Yeah, it's a point of action. It's not just learning. A course would do that for you. If all you needed to do was teach people and then leave them alone, you could just teach them
Sure.
in a course, even a live course, right? It could be like, hey, I'm going to do a 1 or 2 hour
Right.
live lesson on this topic,
Yeah.
which is, by the way, if it's unpaid, that's kind of what webinars are, right? Webinars are information products,
Sure.
you
And I
know.
think webinars also don't have that promise of leaving with something.
Now,
You give
webinars,
people enough I
right?
think this is my perception of webinars and how I've run them. Although I try to be very educational and have people leave with something,
Mhm.
because I don't want to waste someone's time.
Right,
I want them to leave with something, but not with everything. But the purpose of a webinar is for people to have an understanding of how much they don't know.
right.
Give them something that they don't know that they can
Mhm.
use, but then say, on the other side of this conversation is a bigger conversation of some kind. So it's hiring for services, hiring for product,
Right,
hiring, for something else they can buy that's going to answer all of their questions.
right. Yeah, and I think that, that's one of the nice things about the workshop versus the webinar is, like, at the webinar, we might go there and learn about all these things and really get an understanding of them and then figure out what we need to do. But when you come to the workshop, I'm guaranteeing you're leaving with a filled out worksheet. Like,
Yeah.
there's a product there. Like,
Yeah.
when you show up, it's like, here's your materials.
Yeah.
Here's your worksheet you're going to work,
Yep.
and you can do that in PDF version, or you can do, I use some digital worksheet type software for that. You could do something as simple as a spreadsheet, and they're going to leave with that product. It's theirs. They walk out of there with it,
Yeah.
and it's filled out and it's high value to them. And they got it done in 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour, whatever your workshop period is,
Right.
instead of having to learn and then go figure it out on their own. Now, if in a workshop versus the webinar, the webinar, they might come and learn all about the things, and you could give them tons of value in education. You could even give them more value in education than should be in a workshop if you wanted to, and it's still education without the action. And we used to, in the at least in military training, it was really important to get to the point of action. Like, one of the things I really appreciated about the human performance model for instruction is that there were two components to it. One was you have to have the knowledge component, you have to learn the thing. The other one was performance. You had to perform against the standard,
Yep.
and you had to go. If I learned how to build a piece of equipment and I sat in all the course lessons and all the things, well, then you had to go out in the lab and build it. It had to run when you were done. Like,
Right.
there was a performance standard there. So it was knowledge and performance, and workshops give you that ability to give them feedback on their idea, teach them exactly how to do it against the standard you just taught them, present their work. This stuff works really well when there's not, like, a lot of sensitivity involved in the topic. And I just want to warn people of this. Like, if you're thinking about doing a workshop, but it's a very sensitive personal topic, you have to be really careful about how you do this, because it is kind of like a group course environment where everyone's going to be sharing their
Yeah. Tell me more
product,
about that.
so
What do you mean? Tell me more about that.
So let's say that you want to host. This is great for, like, thinking about what topics you want to put in your workshop, right? So if you were thinking
Mhm.
about what should I do a workshop on, well, you want to do something that doesn't involve, like, sensitive or protected information,
Yep. Yep.
right? That they would have to share publicly,
Oh, I see. Okay.
right?
All right.
So that could
Yep.
be
Yep.
health related, mental health, physical health, whatever. That could also
Okay.
be
Interesting.
business sensitive. Right? It's like, if you have to walk
Proprietary.
in there, yeah, if I'm thinking people need to sign NDAs before they hear any of this, this is not a good workshop topic,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Fair. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're like, hey, we're going to get together, I'm going to teach you how to build a good business plan for your business, which, you know, um, I'm not going to ask you to share the very specific detailed numbers
No.
and things that are in your business plan with the group. So if I was going to host a workshop on a topic like that, I'd have to get creative with how I could provide them feedback on their stuff, maybe after the workshop
Yeah.
in a situation like that. Right. Now, for you as the host, you're kind of you're walking into the situation that every workshop host should be walking into, where you go, what do I have to give these people so they can succeed? And also, what do I expect from them so they can succeed? And if I'm not putting either of us in a bad spot, we're good to go. But if I think there's some sensitivity there, then as the host, I need to control that sensitivity and say, all right, I'm gonna have you guys submit these to me, and then I'm going to provide you feedback after the event. And
Okay.
if
So there
you're
can
going to
be
do
some
that,
follow-up
right.
interaction.
And if you're going to do that, if that's the route you're going to take, because that's what fits best for your client and for your business, you have to promise them a feedback time. Like, you will get feedback from me in X time.
Okay.
Don't leave it open-ended, or they'll feel like,
So that gives me English. Another question occurs to me.
It's all those wild hours of sleep.
Where's my magic coffee refiller?
Yeah.
So when you're doing a workshop then, and you have to have time to answer questions and to go back and forth, is there an ideal size for a number of participants for a workshop?
Perfect question.
See, I'm not terrible. It took me a minute, but I got there.
It was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
Yes, there's no standard math for this, but there is like good judgment as the expert in the room on this, right? So if you're the host and you're going to set up a workshop, if there is a large amount of back and forth required, then your numbers are probably going to be a little lower than if there wasn't, right? So kind of a logical thing here. I like to keep my groups to less than 15 people. So for me, and this is just because I teach regularly, I teach every week, at least once, I'm teaching classes at the university or in my business, or both. And I know what my ideal class size is if I want interaction in a certain period of time. And
because
so
too big, people can hide.
That's right.
And too small, there's not enough interaction or energy to kind of really get things going.
Also, it needs to be worth everyone's while. So as the business owner, if you're going to charge, like I'm charging $97 a seat in the workshop this weekend, I know that if that person were to hire me one-on-one, it would cost many multiples of that. So there's automatically a value there for them. When it comes to the price, it is very much in their favor to do the workshop versus one-on-one if they're comfortable in that environment. It also gives me the ability to fill my hour or two with more than one person, right? And so I need to make sure that I'm giving them the appropriate amount of attention and value for that time and financial investment in the workshop.
Right.
So I will say, all right, I've got 5 main objectives for the workshop. And each of those main objectives deserves 20 minutes worth of work. So that comes out to 100 minutes of work. So we're automatically into the 2-hour block, right? We're going to need up to 2 hours for this. And if I thought that I needed more than 20 minutes of interaction with the number of people I've capped the room at, which in my case is any number under 15, I would rather get done earlier and either provide more help and dive in a little deeper than run out of time and leave people feeling unfulfilled. So think about the number of
that. You have to fulfill the promise.
Right.
They have to leave with their product.
Right. So if I have 15 people, can I do that topic in 20 minutes? Back and forth.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to kind of like break it down to its elements and go, I have 5 objectives. If I had 15 people, like, that's a lot to work through. Like, maybe I need to cap the room at
some
10.
people will get it without having to go back and forth with you, but you can't count on that. You can't count on.
Correct.
Right. You have to, it's kind of like my Q&As for my courses.
Right.
I have, it has to be long enough that everyone can get their questions answered.
That's right. The other thing you have to be aware of in that same equation or same element of planning your workshop is that you can't let the conversations go too long. So you have to be very careful about regulating the time in the group.
Yeah.
And doing it in a very professional and respectful way, because one person can't capitalize on all the time. And
What do
10
you do?
people.
How do you, I mean, I know what I do, but how do you diplomatically say to someone without offering more of your time? Because that's
Mhm.
like some people go, I need a subtitle for my book. And it can take a while to flesh that
Yeah.
out. And
Yeah.
without saying, oh, well, let me just talk to you later about this and offering more time
Mhm.
outside of the workshop, how would you suggest someone who's new at running a workshop handle that?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of setting the ground rules at the opening for this. We have a lot to get through. Here are the things we're absolutely going to do today. And here are the things that could keep us from getting there. So, in order to control the time period for each of these objectives, we're going to set each objective at X amount of time. And we're going to go around the room once before we go around again. So, we're not going to give someone 5 questions back to back that aren't
Oh,
helpful to
right.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to go around, and I've already got some preset questions that
Do
I
you
know
play
are going
the
to be
gong
popular.
show? Like when you
Yeah.
ring the gong,
Well,
someone's
I
out of time.
yeah, I'm a big fan of like giving them structure with a smile on my face. I'm like, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to do a lot in a very short period of time. So
Yeah.
bear with me. And I will be very, I won't hesitate to tell everyone if we're falling behind. So don't take it personal if I'm like, hey, we're going to have to come back to that. Or if, hey, like, I need you to think about it this way while we move to the next topic.
Got it. That's
Right.
awesome.
Like sometimes you can provide them with the information they need to make the decision, especially if it's outside the scope of really what you're doing. Cause oftentimes we get a question that's like, dude, that's a really good question. And everyone in the room is going to love that question. And I can answer it in 2 minutes or I can answer it in 2 hours. And I got 2 minutes today. So, you know,
Right.
if I
Right.
really feel like it's something that is critical for them, I'm going to potentially follow up after the event. So sometimes it's really good for you to go, you know what? I really want to answer that. And I'm going to answer that for you in an email or in a live video after the event.
So as the instructor, you can
Mhm.
create another business asset
Sure.
and answer that question, because chances are if someone has that question, many people will have that question, and it offers
Yeah.
an opportunity for you to allocate more time to it, but not once, but
Right.
something that a lot of people can benefit from.
Yeah. And,
I love
and,
that.
and, and another thing I'm a really big fan of, you get this a lot in live courses on site. It's like, well, we've got the parking lot. You know, we've got this board over here. We're going to write all the questions down that we don't get to today.
Mm,
You know, like you don't want people to feel like their questions went unanswered or
right.
that's
Yeah.
that's one thing. To ignore their question or forget it is a whole nother deal. So I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of having a parking lot of some sort where people can dump their questions. It might be a chat,
Yeah.
it might be a document that you share with everyone and say, put your questions in the document, put your
Okay.
questions in the chat. And then you can
Mm,
download that and do a Q&A email afterward. Hey, any questions we didn't
right.
get to, I'm going to answer and send out to everyone in an email. So every question
Right.
gets addressed. Not,
Okay.
leave no man behind kind of thing.
Leave no man behind. I like it. I
Right.
like it. That's very cool. Does your workshop come with these tips for how to conduct a workshop from the, because you've mentioned some very important things, which
Right.
is setting expectations with a smile
Right.
and keeping to time and how to handle people. And sometimes people come and they don't, I don't think they're not malicious,
Right.
but they're just like, oh my gosh, I've got you. I want to have all my questions answered. And they forget, or they don't have the awareness that there are other students in the room
Right.
that they
Yeah.
need to consider. So they just keep, I have another. Will you be providing that? Or will you have to do a different workshop on
On workshops.
workshop? Well, on
Yeah.
conducting a workshop, not
Yeah.
right. Like, I
Sure.
think that's really important, because there's the whole hosting part of anything. How do you host a Q&A, a mastermind meeting, a in person, a luncheon, something like that? Like those are all skills, and it's just as easy to be ineffective as it is to be effective, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's no perfect host, but there's some really good ways to do it, that you're definitely going to want to be aware of. And there's some definite things you don't want to do that you need to be aware of.
Right.
That in this particular workshop, they'll learn a little bit of that through their experience in the workshop, but the workshop is specifically geared toward helping them create their course foundation. So, but it's funny you bring that up, because I've thought about creating a course and workshop on workshops. So, just last night I was telling Tammy, I was like, man, I might need to put together a mini course on how to host workshops.
So I heard a great line the other day, and I think it's just helpful to have language. And I was talking to someone, and he was new to town, and he met this gentleman who said, here's who you need to know, and I can make those introductions. And he was like, great. Oh my gosh, an introduction to all these people and all these things would be great. And the guy then asked him a question that he never forgot, which I think is so valuable. And it was, how do you plan to compensate me for my effort?
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people, they would never call an attorney and say, can I have free advice? Can I have free legal advice? Because you expect to get a bill. You wouldn't go to the dentist and go, could you just clean this one tooth for me? Like or I have a cavity. Can you just take care of this? And then go up to the counter and be like, hey, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to post a thank you on my Facebook. But I don't think people have a problem reaching out to a professional and saying, can you just answer a few questions on how to do my course? Or I'd like to pick your brain about, right? I had that recently with someone who reached out and said, someone I had gifted my course to, no less, reached out and said, now I'm almost done with the book. I need some help with marketing. So I'd really love to sit with you over a good cup of coffee and pick your brain about book marketing.
The longest cup of coffee ever.
Right. And I just said, you have access to this course. You have access to this book. I suggest you take full advantage of those. Or this is what I charge for an hour to consult with you on book marketing. All of that to say is I think the language around hosting a workshop is very important too. So that gives you the workshop person, the workshop expert, perhaps another workshop on how do you conduct a workshop so that you can get through all of those things and you can serve all of those people, because people are interesting and they have different personalities and levels of awareness and desired outcomes, and knowing how to kind of say, hey, I absolutely want to hear every word that you have to say. And I have these other people that I need to serve, and make sure that they're heard as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's very important. In fact, not only like with the time requirement that we talked about in the beginning, where I'm very clear about like, we need to move on this schedule for the workshop, the inside the workshop schedule. I tell them up front, my promise to you is your promise to everyone. Like my promise to you as an attendee is that you will achieve these things in this 2 hours, period, over and out. Everything else is secondary. We have to do these things. So if it doesn't serve these things, it gets put on the back burner. If we have time at the end, we'll work toward that. Right. But like just that little bit of like structure goes a really long way toward helping with kind of managing those expectations for like what outside of the scope we should talk about, maybe when we should talk about it.
And that's so helpful if you've never run a workshop before and you don't teach on a regular basis. These are all things that you've learned, I'm sure, over years and years of being in the military and doing training and managing people and managing events. They're all coming into play in this particular situation. And you probably have so much knowledge that you need to do another workshop. But let's talk about the one you are doing. You're welcome. All the homework.
Well, this is like the same situation with the book, right? Leave it to a fellow author to give you a book idea.
I know. I remember saying to my editor, did you just give me another book to write at one time.
Yeah. They're like,
So,
yes, I did. And here's the contract for that book.
yes,
They can't wait to
yes.
edit it.
Can't wait to edit it. Here, please pay your 50% deposit today.
That's right.
So how do people find out more? What's the name of the workshop you're doing? How do people find out more about it? You mentioned that it's $97. It's this Saturday. What time does it start? What time does it end? Who's the
Yeah.
ideal person to take the workshop?
I'll drop this. It's in the show description notes. There's a link,
Right?
but I'll drop it
Right?
in the chat as well for anyone
Right?
that's watching. So this one is a live virtual workshop. It's this Saturday, March 16th from 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. And I
Okay.
chose that time after conducting a poll. So if you guys are curious, like, where'd you come up with those times? I asked people, hey,
Yeah. Good.
if you were to attend a live workshop, would you rather do it on a Wednesday afternoon in this block of 4 hours or on a Saturday in this block of 4 hours? And I got a 50-50 response. so I understand that there are people who need the outside of the work hours and the people who inside the work hours is their work hours to do what they're doing. And so I offered to do this for the Saturday crowd first. And so it'll be this Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time. And again, let me drop that link for you real quick.
And then I have another question.
Okay. I did something weird. Oh, there we go. Okay. To the workshop. And so the fun part about this particular workshop is it's a series of workshops. And this is just the first
great
chance in the series to learn. So I have a newsletter called Course Foundations. And it teaches people all the fundamental elements of email. It's an email newsletter. Fundamental elements of developing a course. Like these are the things that every course creator should think about. Well, I gear my workshops around those same fundamentals. Like you have to have these things and they're valuable to every course creator. This one in particular sets you up to develop your curriculum, which is what a lot of my clients come to me for. So when I thought about what should I do a workshop on, I thought about, well, what is really valuable to my one-on-one clients and what is almost every client come to me asking for?
Yeah.
And so if I could put those two things together, there's a potential that there's an audience that will value that offer.
So my next question is, what if it's Thursday and Saturday I have plans? I have my kid's soccer game or I am otherwise occupied. What's the answer? Do I need to wait for you to do the workshop again? Will there be a replay? Will the replay cost the same or be less? Can I take the other workshops if I don't take the first one? What's happening? What's happening, Lucas? That was 7 questions. So.
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions in there. I'll take the one that kind of has a dependency. So I make my workshops so that they're one-offs, even though they're related. You can take one without having to take the others. That makes it really flexible. So that if someone doesn't get in the door on day one, they don't feel like there's no opportunity for them to benefit from a future workshop until that series is over. If you're going to do a series, you can either do it that way so that everyone has to attend. And if you're going to do that, I would sell it as one series, one purchase.
Yep.
Right now with me breaking mine up and offering them in different time periods and different events and all the things, even though it's all around the same series, but they're standalone workshops, I sell each one individually. Now, if someone were to enroll in this individual workshop on curriculum focus this weekend and building their course foundation, and something came up on Saturday morning before the workshop and they were unable to attend, I can offer them a recording of the session, but they will absolutely miss out on the nuance and working with that is only found in the live session. And that's the beauty of the workshop, is that you're there working with.
You're there working, right. But okay.
So if something did come up, you can either, and this is just like general web or workshop hosting type information, you can either offer those people a recording of the session, or you can tell them, would you like to reschedule for the next time I hold this, or would you like a refund?
Okay.
Yeah. And give them the opportunity to discern which path is best for them.
Yeah. And so then as the host, you sell the seats. When's the, I can't reschedule, I can't get a refund. Like, what's a policy that's good to have? Like, what's a minimum number of people you want to enroll to conduct the workshop? Or do you, if one person pays, do you show up and work with them? If someone decides 10 minutes before they want a refund, do you do that? Or is it 24 hours? Like, what are some good things to think about?
So, and this is very much about you as the course host. I can give you some advice on this, but you have to kind of come up with you have to agree to what's comfortable for you, right?
Sure.
Everyone's situation's a little different. My opportunity cost may be different than some other course or workshop hosts opportunity cost, or whatever they think that they could be doing with that time. So I will just say my general rule of thumb is that if I have one person pay, I will show up. That's the way I roll. I've actually held life courses before where I had one person enroll in an afternoon on a Friday. And I was like, it's me and you, dude. We're going to have the best afternoon or Friday afternoon
you get
ever.
Expert advice that people can't get at this price.
You paid.
You win. You paid.
We're
you
here.
win.
That's awesome. Let's do it. Let's go.
I sometimes like that because then it allows me to just go deep with someone.
Yeah. And I also just want, absolutely. By the way, they are getting a ton of value in that situation, which is great. Like, we love to give that value, and they get to receive it. So that's great. Yeah. The other thing about that is I don't like the back and forth in my head where if like, man, if I had just priced this a little higher, I could afford to do this for one or two people if they showed up. Like, I set my price so that if one person shows up, I'm happy to show up with them. Right? Like, there's no regrets on my behalf. If there is a situation where your workshop is priced much lower than that threshold for you, and you're not comfortable with that, then I think you need to set a minimum enrollment expectation and open your enrollment period for a little bit longer time. Give people an opportunity to come in. Also, a no refunds policy is something I would consider as well. And the reason for that is the lower the price point, the more unstable the people sometimes can become when it comes to committing to the event.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but that's just what happens. The lower you drive the price, the more variation of the type of person you attract to that. And some people are more serious than others are. And you don't want the serious people to suffer for the lack of seriousness that the lower price point can sometimes attract. And so you need to just make it like it's a no refund policy unless the person attends and you don't deliver. Now, I'm okay with that refund policy where you're like, if we all show up and it's a live virtual event and my feed is garbage and I don't deliver, like, here's your money back. I'm okay with that.
That's
but
right.
These will not be like back and forth, like subjective criteria. It's like very clear cut. Like, I was unable to host it, you get your money back, kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we're at the end of our time. I have one last question, and then we can just tell people once again about the workshop. You said it's part of a series. When do you anticipate doing number 2 in the series? How fast will you follow the first one with the second one?
So my general rule of thumb is I try to do mine no more frequently than every 2 weeks and no less frequently than once a month. Depending on how, and I'm kind of haven't committed to my second date yet because I wanted to see what my enrollment was for this first one. If the enrollment surpasses my room threshold, I will intentionally provide that same workshop again in my next opportunity instead of moving into the next point in the series. So I'll figure that out probably tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so say the name of the workshop again, please.
All right. It is a curriculum focus workshop, and it's called Build Your Course Foundation. And in the curriculum focus, we cover goals, objectives, and outlines of your course.
Awesome. Perfect.
Links are in the chat.
We've got about 46 hours before it starts. So now is a great time to get your seat for that, and maybe find a buddy who wants to do a course and bring them along with you. And it just sounds like it's so much fun. And of course, you are just a wealth of knowledge. So it is a steal at $97 to get a seat in your room, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in this week and hearing about workshops. I learned a lot. This was really great. This was well, because it's nuanced, which I like. I like the nuance and the opportunity to provide value for people and for them to walk away with something. So I might consider doing a book outline creation workshop, because I think we could do a title, a subtitle, and a complete outline for a book.
Oh yeah.
In 2 hours. And then that would get people out of inaction and into action, which makes me very happy. So I'm going to consider doing my own workshop, Lucas.
Excellent.
So thank you for that. Yeah. And of course, as always, this is a blast to hang out with you every Thursday. So if this is your first time that you've ever met us, we didn't even say who we are and what we do at the beginning. We're such professionals. I mean, we set the standard. Lucas helps people to turn their books into courses or to create online courses. And I help people to write, publish, and monetize their books. And we are here every Thursday at 10 Central, 11 Eastern to educate you on all aspects of writing, publishing, and monetizing your books and building your empire. And that is what we do. And we are happy to serve. And we would love to hear your questions, to talk to you if you have an interest in writing, publishing, or monetizing your book, turning it into a course, or any number of other income streams, including workshops. And so if you would like and love and ring the bell and subscribe and all the things, leave your questions, reach out to us, let us know you're listening or watching, even if you haven't said hi before, and especially if you've said hi before. And we will see you. We'll see you next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.